What's up, y'all? Goofy Rexy here. Hope everybody is doing well, and wanted to do an updated video here on the best Famine Scourge teams that you can use. I did make a video talking about this a couple months ago now, but now that we're kind of jumping into what's going to be the next patch, which is going to be coming next week, we got this in-game mail here that said update coming soon. And the first line in this email here is that we're going to be getting a new Famine chapter of Apocalypse Saga. We know, based on information that was shared with us before, that in order for the saga of a horseman to come around, that first, the second run of their Scourge event is going to have to come back first, right? So we know that the Famine Scourge event is going to be coming in the next patch here. So how do you prepare for it? What are the best teams that are going to be there? So I'm going to be going through the teams that I used the last time, talk about some of the modifications that I would make to some of those teams, so therefore help you out as you're planning towards the Famine Scourge event, or the second run of the Famine Scourge event here. Of course, there's some other information that was mentioned in this in-game mail too. So Red Hulk's War Scourge event is going to be coming, so we're gonna look to see what data mines come out here and what the nodes are going to look like, and what we're going to need to prepare for that later on in the future. 5 new playable characters, which are going to be the 3 characters that we saw already, Red Hulk, and then of course an additional character that's going to be coming here, season 1 for Cosmic Crucible, new event campaign, Alliance War updates here, and a return of Avengers Town, which I know is going to be very exciting. But before we actually dive directly into the teams, I wanted to bring up this graphic that I talked about in my last video here that broke down what you're going to need for each individual node for the Famine Scourge event. So for node 1 and node 2, you're going to need city characters here. For node 3 and node 4, you're going to need mutant characters. For node 5, of course, if you're doing the higher difficulties, you're going to need the specific either A-Force, Inhumans, or Young Avengers. Young Avengers are the best team for that node there. If you're doing difficulty 4, then you're going to need hero characters. I'll talk about a hero team there. Node 6, node 7, villain teams. For node 8, node 9, you're going to need Cosmic, and then for higher difficulties, you're going to need Cosmic and Mystic for node 8, and then for node 9, everyone's going to need Cosmic and Mystic characters, unless you're doing a lower difficulty, which is 1 through 3, where you'll only need Cosmic. And then for node 10, again, we're going back around to the A-Force, Inhuman, and Young Avenger trait. But wanted to go through that just in case there are some new players here that have not done the Famine Scourge event before. But let's dive into the teams, the best teams to use here for this Famine Scourge event. So I got them saved here, and I'll talk about some of the teams that I used the last time, which I won't make some changes to some, and then I'll make some changes to some others here. So in regards to the city comps, or your city options, what I used the last time was Morbius, Ghost Rider, Shang-Chi, Dagger, and then Cloak. This team was really good actually for the first node, and then also parts of the second node as well. They weren't able to fully last with the second node. As some of you already know, Cloak and Dagger, they have really long cooldowns. Shang-Chi was fine the second wave, but I found that not having that control, the blinds from these 2 characters here did kind of leave me a little vulnerable in that second node to finish it off with the second team. But either way, for that first node, they were able to kind of rifle through and do really well in that first node. So I found that they were probably the best team to use here. Ghost Rider and Morbius, of course, if you already built them out for the Pestilent Scourge event, you're also going to be able to get the added benefit as well as using them out for the Famine Scourge event. So good team. I would definitely recommend them again as a team to use for the city nodes. Now, if you're looking for alternative teams or a team to finish off that second node, then this is actually what I went with the last time, and this worked really well as well. So I use the 4 Web Warriors here, and then I use Symbiote Spider-Man. So of course I took out Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk is not useless outside of raids with this team, but he is not the best character on this team outside of raids. So I did throw in Symbiote Spider-Man here because I already had him built up. I've used him for previous raids like Doom 1 and partially for Doom 2 as well, right? So I'd already had him built up, and he does give other Spider-Verse characters an extra boosted max health here. So it actually does help out this team quite a bit with using them with the Web Warriors. I found that this was a fairly easy second node cleanup. Worked really well there. Now, there are some players that will want to save Miles for, let's say that you're doing difficulty 5 and you do need Young Avengers. Some players will want to save Miles for their Young Avengers team, and I completely understand that. Of course, I would then throw back in Spider-Punk, use Symbiote Spider-Man, and to kind of clean things up. Also, I will say that there was a surprise team that actually did really well in the Scourge event as well, for that second node, and it was the symbiote team. Now, I know that not everybody has built out the symbiote team here, so I completely understand that. But if you have already built this team out already, the symbiotes work really well on that second node because of Greg's. So being able to kind of get that turn meter here by killing the Gregs, getting your turn meter filled up, does kind of work out pretty well. Keep in mind though that there is a Gambit in that node, and Gambit's just going to be pinging constantly every single time that you're hitting a Greg, which definitely could work towards your disadvantage, right? So for lower difficulties, I would probably recommend, so like node 5, 6, 7, difficulty 5, 6, 7, I would probably recommend the symbiotes. Anything higher than that, it can get a little bit dicey. Node 8 is probably okay, but maybe they're at best a cleanup team for you. That could probably help out if you're kind of running, if you wiped out with your first team. Maybe they can probably help out to clean up a node. But lower difficulty symbiotes do work. But of course, if you haven't had them built up already, then probably not a great option for you. But let's go to the mutant section here. So the best mutant comp that I found was this one. The last time when I went in, I tried to use Phoenix instead of using Storm here. Excuse me. But I found using the 3 main characters from X-Men, Bishop, Jubilee, Beast, really, really good comp there. Using magic, I threw in here to give a little bit of extra barrier, a little bit more sustain. Also, I wanted to use magic to help to build up charges on Storm as well. So the idea with Storm here is to use her in the first node to build up her charges to basically get her prepared for that second node. That's essentially why I have Storm here. The second node is a lot more challenging than the first node is. There's like Silver Samurai, there's I think Madeline Pryor. There's a couple characters that are really dangerous in that second node. So I really wanted to be able to build up Storm's charges by using Beast and then using magic to do that, to then help so that when I go into that second node, that I would then be able to use her ult to completely clear that first wave, or maybe save it for the second wave where I would be able to use that ult as well to be able to completely clear that second wave. And of course, if she does have offense up from Beast at that point too, then that would actually work out even better to be able to do so. So that was really the strategy with this team here. You could technically use this comp that's down below. I found that this was more of a sack comp for both the first node and the second node. They're not really going to be able to complete the complete nodes here, at least not at higher difficulties. A Gambit I threw on this team just to give them a little bit extra damage with using the X Factor team. It's okay. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best comp. I probably wouldn't try to use this unless you were doing a cleanup. You alternatively could as well. If you do have Rogue, you could use a full unlimited X-Men team to be able to get through. I don't know how well they will do to completely clear a node. I do understand that there were some players that did use a full unlimited X-Men team to actually do pretty well on that second node. So if you do have a full unlimited X-Men team, and of course they do present as an option for you, they actually have a pretty decent amount of sustain a little bit and definitely a lot of burst damage. They're not going to wow anyone. I think Rogue is really kind of what makes this team go. So she's probably kind of just like a one-man or one-woman crew at that point. But yeah, I mean, if you do have them, you can definitely use them as an option. Now for node 5, that's where for lower difficulties, you have heroes, a hero comp that you'll need to put together. This I found was just kind of like a simple, nice little hero comp that you can use here that doesn't take away from anything else that you're going to need later on in some of the other nodes. So Shuri here, Maria, so basically Secret Avengers with Shuri and then Nick Fury, right? So this works really well together. Shuri, the initial sort of buffs on turn 1 here with a special. You're getting the speed up again here from Captain Sam, a lot of control and damage from Sharon Carter. Maria Hill helping out with the sustains, Shuri as well helping out with sustain whenever they have whenever they get the flex. Whenever an enemy hits them, then of course Maria Hill is going to heal. If they get below 50%, Shuri's going to throw deflects on them. So therefore, you're also getting you're getting more deflects and more potential healing here from Maria Hill, right? So I found that this team worked really well. You're going to build up your Secret Avengers anyways for raid content. So I would definitely say that this is a good comp to use for your hero section. Of course, though, if you're going to be doing the higher difficulties, Node 5, we found based on the last time that we did the Scourge event that the Young Avengers team is definitely the far superior team here that you can use. So if you have a full Young Avengers team with Echo and Kate Bishop, even if you don't have, let's say, great stars on those characters, if you at least have a bare minimum of 3, I would definitely try to use a full Young Avengers team here, because I think that that's going to be the better comp for you to go with. Overall, anything else can get a little dicey. I remember the last time I went in, I tried to use A-Force, and I said, okay, I'm going to use my A-Force team here for the first wave, for the first node, for node 5, and then I'll try to use just Young Avengers for node 10. It didn't work out that way. I ended up having to sack. I went in with my Inhumans team and I sacked. I used them to sack, and then went in with my full Young Avengers team, took care of it. And then for the last node, I used my A-Force team to sack, and then went in with Young Avengers to be able to kind of finish off those nodes. That was the best way that I was able to get through Famine Scourge. Any other comps you could use, like if you don't have Kate Bishop, you could try to use Miles here. Use Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo will give you a little bit of control. Miles will also get the added benefit of having Young Avengers tag with the rest of the team. CM could be used as a hero brawler that will get some synergy here with Miss Marvel. There is the Black Bolt and Yo-Yo comp here. Yes, you can use Yo-Yo with Miss Marvel, because Miss Marvel is not actually a protector, so it's not gonna hinder Yo-Yo from actually being able to throw offense down. So those are some of the other comps that you can use there, but really Young Avengers are going to be the best option that you can use for node 5. Now for your next sections, for node 7, for node 6 and node 7 here, this is where you're going to have your villain comps that you're going to have to use. So for villains, it's fairly easy if you have a high-end roster, right? Or if I don't have a high-end roster, I have an end-game roster. It's not high-end, it's decent. You could use the villain characters here. You can use there's some really good villain characters that you can use. So I use actually Doom, Emma Frost, and then I use the 3 characters here from the Darkhold team. Obviously, of course, having Morgan Le Fay is a cheat code to this game. Agatha, of course, Doctor Strange Heartless works really well. Doom is also a cheat code within himself if you can use him there. If you don't have, let's say, Morgan, you don't have Doom, it's kind of tough without having at least one legendary character that's a villain. Right, I found using Weapon X with Dr. Octopus actually worked fairly decently well too. Dr. Ock did give some deflects here to, let's say, I put him in the middle of Omega Red and Silver Samurai. This villain team will work, I think, pretty decently well at lower levels. I actually did use this team at higher difficulties too. It got really dicey at one point. Everybody died except for Omega Red. Omega Red then soloed the rest of the nodes, so Omega Red is definitely OP AF. So therefore, I mean, you're gonna do well there. I would switch him to Striker, not Skirmisher. I just have Skirmisher here on him for Alliance War. But this comp does work pretty well too for your villain section. But of course, this is gonna be the best comp. Also, if you have Dormammu, Dormammu is also a good option to use too. But I would save Dormammu for some of your later nodes, which we'll talk about a little bit later here. For your node 7 and node 8, that's where you're going to need either Cosmic. If you're doing lower difficulties, you'll need Cosmic characters, which is the reason why I didn't use Kestrel earlier on that hero team, because just in case you're doing those lower difficulties there, you will need to have a Cosmic team. And of course, Kestrel is one of the better Cosmic characters. So I found for your Cosmic team here, using the Eternals with Kestrel and Deathpool and Silver Surfer was really good for your Cosmic section. And then of course, if you also have the full Infinity Watch team, you can also use them for your Cosmic section there as well. That also works pretty good too. If you're gonna be doing higher difficulties where you'll need Cosmic Mystic characters, that's where it kind of gets a little dicey here. Of course, Eternals are gonna be the best characters to use. I threw in Deathpool here, Silver Surfer, and then Doctor Strange Heartless. Now, Doctor Strange Heartless, of course, if you're using him in your villain section, then you probably won't have him for your Cosmic Mystic section. But if you can throw in some other characters for your villain section and not use Doctor Strange Heartless, then he'll work well here for your Cosmic Mystic section. Also, for your Cosmic Mystic section, the cheat code is Dormammu. So if you do have Dormammu, you can also use them there as well. So those are the team comps that I use here, guys. made some modifications, of course, to some of the teams that I used here. I didn't talk about the specific modifications, but their modifications were talked about without saying that there were modifications. So therefore, hoping that this video is going to be helpful for you here. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. Definitely happy to help. But until next time, guys, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe. All right, bye.